And when President Trump reopened the government, he also called for a bipartisan committee to attempt to hash out some border compromise. John was talking about it before February 16th. So why haven't we heard about any progress? Here now, a member of that committee, Republican Representative Tom Graves of Georgia. All right, Congressman, any progress whatsoever? And if not, don't be partisan about this. What can we do now to make some progress before the 16th? All right, not being partisan at all. There's been zero progress. We have had one meeting since this conference committee was created, and it was created by Nancy Pelosi. You remember she said, open the government and we'll negotiate. She created this committee. She controls this committee. Her chairman chairs this committee. She has more votes than anyone on this committee. We've had one meeting. I've requested more. I stayed all last week, went through the weekend, and yet no more meetings. Well, Henry Cuellar said this on Fox News Sunday about the wall.
First of all, we're not going to have a wall. Now, can we look at some sort of enhanced barrier? That's something we can certainly look at. But I have to say, living on the border, you have to let the local Border Patrol chief have the say-so and let the local communities be involved so they can come up with maybe some sort of enhanced barrier.
Okay, what does this look like? I'm a bit confused. Enhanced barrier, not a wall, see through it. See, I always think a wall you can't see through, but we're going to have a see-through, so it's kind of already an enhanced barrier. Yeah. It seems like there's a semantic problem in part, correct? Well, it's a little bit of play on words. Enhanced barrier for the Democrats is taking an old wall and improving it. So it's no new wall. Now, the president wants new walls, which I agree with. So enhanced barriers, one piece. That's only it. Well, when you see the video just released last week and the week before of hundreds of people at one time crawling across an area that, I mean, my 10-year-old could crawl over this thing. This is not a difficult barrier. In some places, you just walk right across the desert, very dangerous parts. Right. And that may you aren't a country when that is how you get into your country, at a place where a lot of people want to come in. That's not what a country does. I mean, if you want to stay a country, at least. Right. So, a lot of areas for improvement. But when you look at the plan that was presented by Homeland Security, I mean, they clearly say there needs to be new additional barriers, steel barriers, walls, in addition to enhancements, in addition to technology, Border Patrol, additional judges and such. There's a lot to do, but a wall is a critical component of it, and I'm not sure why they're walking away from it. Well, what they'll say is, we're going to do drones and sensors, and a lot of the big interdictions are happening at ports of entry, drug interdictions. So they're hanging a lot of it on the ports of entry, where they are making some progress, and lower number of apprehensions. So anytime you bring it up, you're like, well, apprehensions are down. We don't have a border crisis. You know, this is what they continue to repeat. All right, well, stay there, and thank you so much, Congressman, for joining us.
Now is California Congressman, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. Congressman, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Is it chaos? I mean, walk us. You're there. You're the minority leader. Tell us what government looks like today.
Is it chaos with our new jobs report last month? Wages going up, unemployment low, renegotiating NAFTA. We're seeing new growth that we've never seen before. I mean, we probably have never been stronger economically in the last 50 years. The challenge is, think about what the Democrats are celebrating. Nancy Pelosi now believes in no border security. What does that mean to human trafficking that they stop going along the way? They celebrate status quo, so it does not solve the DACA problem. Yeah. They are just opposed to anything that Trump wants to offer, even though that's good for America.
Yeah, I mean, they say that they are for border security, but when I ask, you know, your colleagues on the left, but why didn't you vote for Kate's Law? Why didn't you vote for the end of sanctuary cities? Why didn't you vote for a wall? And we know that Nancy Pelosi has a wall in your state, in her state, separating Tijuana from San Diego. So is this all just resist because they hate him, they want him out?
Yeah, because if you look, since we built that wall in California, illegal crossings have dropped more than 95%.
Between Tijuana and San Diego.
And then if you go to Yuma, Arizona, you go to El Paso. El Paso is now one of the safest large cities in America. So there's an ability to do this. But what people don't quite realize, the amount of individuals they catch for human trafficking coming across the border, the amount of drugs, there is a place that we find common ground. And remember what the president offered. Let's solve the DACA issue at the same time. Let's solve the border issue at the same time. And I think that's what America looks for, common ground. But Nancy Pelosi wanted nothing to happen.
Well, you had conversations conversations. How are the conversations going now? Can you give us a status check in terms of what's gone on so far in this week? You've got another 2 weeks left before another potential government shutdown.
They've only met one time, and they had opening statements, and then Speaker Pelosi came out and said, no money for a wall, even though Democrats and herself have voted for this time before. But now that the president has offered it, they want to oppose it.
What are you going to do? I mean, the president is expected to call for unity tonight. Unity, which, I mean, I think the American people want unity amid these deep divisions between Republicans and Democrats over border security. Is a compromise even feasible? And is this just the beginning of what is to come for the next 2 years? That everything your team goes and puts forth, everything that the president wants is met with resistance?
I hope not. I hope we make a pledge to one another that we put people before politics. We can always have a campaign. We can always have where we disagree philosophically, but let's put America first. And let's sit together and find ways that we can find common ground. Because that's the way our government is actually designed to work. Nobody's going to get 100% of what they want. But unfortunately, the Speaker wants 100% or nothing. But that's really not where all of her members are. More than 60 members on the Democrat side said they would support some form of the wall.
Well, that's a good point, because I want to ask you about that. Is there a movement within the Democrats right now to break with the Speaker?
I think so, but the problem is what Speaker Pelosi does. She has such a grip on her party where now it's immoral from the standpoint to even talk about a wall when they voted for it, when she has people in her own leadership team that supports it.
Yeah. Border Patrol on high alert right now as we speak, because you've got the most recent migrant caravan arriving at the southern border. I mean, the timing is incredible, Congressman. California Speaker Pelosi's home state, she says the wall is immoral. And we know we show this wall all the time between Tijuana and San Diego. And I keep asking the question, if you tear down that wall, will the people in Tijuana assimilate into San Diego?
No, if you
it's pretty obvious, right?
Yeah, these caravans that are coming, Tijuana does not want them either, the mayor, if you talk down there. This is what's really backwards in their thinking. You've got to have some form of barrier in certain areas, and you've got to have a structure to be able to do it. I think everybody in America believes that. The president says that's not the only thing that he wants to do. Yes, he wants to put technology in other areas to be able to protect it, but he also wants to deal with the DACA issue, and the Democrats are saying no.
So do you think that there could be an agreement with a solution for the DACA recipients? I mean,
I can guarantee you this. If Speaker Pelosi could get out of the way, we'd have an agreement in less than 30 minutes. But she wants to make everything political, and that's what's causing the problem. But we've got so much more to do. We've got infrastructure. We've got the negotiations where the president sat down with Mexico and Canada and came in with a better agreement for America.
Is that going to be approved, though? I mean, I speak with a number of Democrat congressmen who say, you know what, I'm not voting for a USMCA. So what happens if you can't ratify that?
America loses in that process because this makes America stronger in a negotiation. Why would they oppose that?
A lot of focus tonight is going to be on the guests at the speech. The White House inviting 11-year-old Joshua Trump, who's been bullied because of his last name. Democrats are getting political. Some of the guests will include furloughed federal workers, critics of Brett Kavanaugh, undocumented people who worked at Trump golf clubs. Tell us about that. I mean, how important are these guests that everybody's bringing to make a point?
Well, I think they invite these guests to try to get some publicity or something else. I think it's important that all of us are together in one place to hear from the president and actually work together to solve these problems. We're going to have differences of opinion, but we can find common ground. And we've got big challenges in front of us. But think about how much we've been able to achieve with getting the tax bill passed. Our economy is stronger than we've ever seen in the last 50 years. We're rebuilding our military to confront the challenges that we see from China and Russia continuing to grow. We've got an energy independence growing in America like we've never had before. So we're stronger when it deals with the Middle East and others. America is in a point to make the next century ours. The challenge would be, is politics going to hold us back from the exceptionalism that America can fully achieve?
The backdrop feels good. You're absolutely right.
Joining us tonight, Congressman Mark Green. He's a member of the House Oversight Committee, the Homeland Security Committee, the House Freedom Caucus, and he was also a special operations flight surgeon. He took part of the mission to capture Saddam Hussein. Congressman, great to have you with us.
Great to be back with you, Lou.
Let's start with these legislative days. No offense, but you all don't work a lot, and the Dems apparently mean not to work at all on solving this urgent national security crisis.
Yeah, it's absolutely a crisis. You got that right. We're ready to negotiate with these guys. We have reached across the aisle multiple times. The president has reached across the aisle multiple times. I mean, he had compassion on the federal employees and reopened the government, gave them another deadline. They won't come to the table. They will not talk. Nancy Pelosi is listening to the hard left progressives in her party, and she is not letting go. And there are many Democrats, interestingly enough, who are reaching across to us saying, hey, we want border security. Yeah. Many have said, yeah, we believe a barrier is a part of this, but Pelosi just won't talk.
Well, you know, if I may say, Congressman, it's damn big of the radical Dems to acknowledge that a wall would be helpful in saving lives, tens of thousands of lives. But I'm a little past, applauding them, at least halfway acknowledging reality. There's got to be a reason. Somebody's on the take. Corruption isn't just on one side of that border. And common sense tells every American that we have got to do everything we can to stop the shipments of heroin and cocaine and methamphetamines, marijuana, fentanyl, and every other deadly drug, because it's being shipped. The majority of all those drugs crossing that border from Mexico to the United States.
Absolutely. 300 Americans a week are dying to heroin overdose. I'm an ER physician. I've seen those patients, crashing in the emergency department. I mean, it is an arterial bleed, to put it colloquially, and we have got to put a tourniquet on it. And that tourniquet is a barrier wall. The president has a solution. The Democrats have supported more money than he's asking for in the past, and yet now they won't do it because maybe it helps them in 2020. I mean, that's what they're focused on. They're focused on 2020, on the politics, and not on protecting American people. It's unconscionable.
It's unconscionable, and it is the Democratic Party's strategy. And I think that you're right, the president's right. Straightforwardly, there's only one campaign promise this president has not delivered on. That's the building of that wall. And the Democrats have boiled it all down to just one thing: obstructing that wall no matter what, no matter the casualties, no matter the death and devastation and the destruction, whether it's wrought by human smuggling, sex trafficking, or the smuggling of those drugs.
Yeah, they don't seem to care about the human suffering. And very clearly in the president's package, humanitarian relief, $800 million, 52,000 new apartment units, more law enforcement. I mean, this isn't just a barrier, but for them, it's just a political ad. They're fighting for 2020, and that's all they care about.
You were on the Homeland Security Committee. We're looking at a border that is, we're talking about millions of illegal immigrants have crossed that border, basically unimpeded, for the past 13 years. We have seen the death, the destruction from drugs. We are watching a corrupt system in Mexico where 33,000 Mexican citizens were murdered last year by the drug cartels. This is the only president who has ever said we're going to go after the cartels. What does the Homeland Security think of those efforts and the efforts of the Homeland Security Department to actually carry out his policies and to actually secure that border?
Absolutely. Homeland Security has identified aspects of the border, regions of the border where most of the trafficking occurs, both humans and drugs. They know exactly where the 243 miles or 234 miles are supposed to be built. They know the corridors where it's happening. They are targeting it. They know the law enforcement that's needed. They have a great plan, and we've presented this to the Democrats, and it's like talking to the wall.
Well, a wall that does exist, that wall between Democrats and Republicans. The obstruction of the Dems is quite a sight to behold. Hard to explain except for massive political corruption and perhaps other kinds as well. Congressman Mark Green, great to talk with you as always. Good to see you.
Same, Lou.